Hey, and welcome to the Full Weight of Joy podcast, the podcast for women who are done stressing about the weight of the world, of expectations and settling for status quo, and ready to step into the full weight of joy. Joy in the journey, whether up or down, joy through the life's challenges, and joy in loving your life right where you are, even though sometimes we feel like chucking it all and moving to Bali. It's for women who are ready to step into who God called them to be. He chose you to be in this world. He created you for a specific purpose. God called us to be the light on a hill, and by embracing who you are and whose you are, you can stand on that hill and shine. The best part, when you're standing next to another woman who's also on the journey, the world gets brighter. My name is Tami. I am your host and a master certified life coach and a trained therapist. For over a decade, I've been helping women do just that. Step into who they're called to be and shine. Are you ready, friend, to start your journey? Let's do this. Hey, welcome back to the podcast. My name is Tami. I'm your host, and I help determined faith-led women create, design, and launch a purpose-centered, purpose-aligned, purpose-driven life and business. I help them take what this desire for more that they have, this feeling that there's more impact or a legacy or that there's something else for them, and I help them to uncover what it is and then live it. And I do this through my neurocoaching. I do this through business coaching. I do this through the Enneagram. I do this through understanding and seeing how God highlights strengths within us, how He created us unique. And I just get to go on this journey with women as they uncover this for themselves. And I have a story for you. I was thinking about it. So this episode I'm recording ahead of time, but it's going to air on Memorial Day. And as you know, if you've been following me at all, that Memorial Day holds a special place for my family in our hearts. And this is a day that we always honored. Growing up military, Memorial Day was always a remembrance. It's a day about celebrating our freedoms and celebrating with our families and our friends. And in 2012, the concept of Memorial Day, the idea, the day itself shifted from remembering and being grateful to remembering and honoring the sacrifice that my kids and I have endured, have made. It was my husband lost his life in 2012 while serving in the military. And it just started, that moment shifted my life, as you could imagine. That moment shifted my family's life. And at the time, my kids were 2 and 4, and I had no idea what life was going to look like for us. And all I could feel was that this was not the end, that there was something more, that there was something that this could be used for good. And I could feel God's hand on me, telling me that I wasn't in it alone and that it would be used for good. And 12 years later, I could not even envision what our life looks like now. And I just wanted to share a story with you, a story that I heard not too long ago. And it epitomized, it really gets to the heart of what my message, my purpose is. And I want to share this because I also think that it really highlights the importance of yours, of figuring out what your purpose, your calling, your gifts, your strengths, your talents, taking the time to do the deep inner work to understand why you're here, why you're alive, what impact, because we're all called to make an impact. We're all called, we have this God-sized calling on our hearts. And this is something I know about these determined Christian women that I work with, because it's there and they need to discover what it is. And if this is you, listen in. And if it's not, if you have this stir and you want something more, you want to figure out what's even the point? I hope that this story motivates you a little bit. I hope that it inspires you and you can see that let's just get into it. So I was reading about this story about this clay, this terracotta Buddha statue. It was a giant, heavy statue from the 13th century. And it was from the Siamese. The Siamese monks created this and were tasked and had the honor of protecting this Buddha, the statue of Buddha. And and they cared for it. It was their duty to care for this, as well as the monastery that they lived in. And during the 13th century, there was a lot of invaders. The Burmese would come in, and they are known to be ruthless. They're known to to kill everything and plunder and take the treasure and just trash things and run. And really that was the fear that those Siamese monks had were that they were going to come after this Buddha statue, and they protected it with their life. And this terracotta statue that didn't look like much, and they they would protect it, and they did what they could. Of course, being peaceful monks, when the Burmese came, all they could do was just defend it the best they can, and they ended up losing their lives. And so years later, the monastery itself was trashed. But the Buddha, for the most part, was untouched. This terracotta clay, it was seemingly, well, it's like there was no value to this Buddha statue. Otherwise, they would have taken it. It's terracotta. It's everywhere. And so years later, this seemingly sentimental and historical statue was sent in, and it's, the value is in the age and the history of it. Well, they went in and they started to restore it, trying to bring back to life the color. And they discovered that really what it was is they started taking some hammers and trying to break off some of the pieces that don't belong. And they uncovered this 5.5 single statue of, it was made of gold. This Buddha statue was completely covered with terracotta, thick terracotta clay protecting it. And really the value was inside of it. It was the gold that probably the Burmese invaders were out to find anyway. And I was thinking about this, how many times do we add layers to ourselves for protection? How much do we put on ourselves, whether it's every time we go through life, and we make a decision, we have a fear, we fall and we get back up. Every time someone says a harsh word to us, every time we think that we're not worthy, we add terracotta, we add clay to ourselves. We add this armor of protection to make it, and so we don't stand out. We don't shine. We're there, and we may be getting bigger. We may be louder. We may be, and there may be more color, because let's face it, gold is singular in color. But we hide what's valuable underneath this armor of protection. With grief, with trauma, with trials, it's no different. Our hearts, our purposes, our lives are that gold 5.5 ton piece of that gold statue that in itself that's the value. And yet for years, everyone looking at that Buddha statue covered in terracotta, they still appreciated it, still valued it because of the historical, the sentiment, how it survived. But they never knew the true value was inside. It wasn't until they started breaking off those armor, that clay, pulling it piece by piece and separating the clay from the actual art, that it was really uncovered that the value was inside of it. This invaluable, a 5.5 tons of gold was sitting there all along, and no one knew. I think back about my grief and how I put armor. Things people would say, I knew that it came from a place they didn't understand some of the things that they were saying and how hurtful they were. Things like, where he's in a better place, or at least the kids were young, so they don't know what they're missing out on, and things like that. So they spoke these words. I had these trials that were all in from a good place, a good intention, but still it was I needed to protect myself. So I added on these layers and layers of protection, and they start from a young age. The first time that you're told, like, whatever, I don't even want to, like, you can picture, but I want you to think about this. It's like, what layers of protection have you been covering yourself? Your strengths, your calling, your purpose, your life, your value has been within you this whole time. And we get weighed down. We get with this armor that we have to carry because we added it on. And at one time, it may have served us, right? Like, I needed it at the beginning. I needed the survival. But as time went on, I discovered that it was actually holding me back, and I needed to start shedding it. I needed to start shining my light. I needed to understand my purpose and my calling. And this story of this Buddha statue really just, as I was listening to it, it actually brought me to tears because I realized that the freedom that comes from shedding the armor, from showing who I was, who I am, what I'm here for, and stepping into my purpose, because it's not easy to step into something that you feel is important. Sometimes that weight of that responsibility can also paralyze you. And so you put more, like, when I have more information, when I have more resources, when I have more time, these are all layers of terracotta, layers of clay that we're putting on top of the gold that God created. All of these excuses or reasons that we don't act, all of these ways that we see what our next steps are, and we stop ourselves out of fear of failure, fear of not measuring up, fear of being rejected, fear of standing out, fear of falling, fear of, like, all of these fears. Every one of these is a layer of clay we put on ourselves. One of the things that has made me the lightest is removing the layers, realizing that people do judge me. I actually get DMs often telling me that I am, you know, well, just random things, some hurtful, and some are very pointed, and so I know, so it's there. It's there. I mean, I don't even know who these people are, and they feel the need to message me and correct me. And then I realized that it's not really me, it's not about me, it's about them. I listen and I look at their heart, and I was like, they're hurting. But the more of the clay that I was able to take off, the more, and it's the weight of the world, the weight of of, the weight of sin, the weight of, like, all the weight of the heaviness of our responsibility, and just, well, I can't even say it better than just the weight of the world that we carry. When we start to remove those layers of clay, when we start to show that shiny piece of gold that God created, though we may be 5.5 tons, I mean, I could figure out how to get 5.5 tons of gold home, right? Like, we're a terracotta statue, maybe not, but we're going to figure out what to do with this 5.5 tons. And what if that 5.5 tons is actually the weight of joy, the weight of it's God's burden. It is his burden is light. It's his responsibility, and he carries the bulk of the responsibility for the outcome. We get to take the obedient step. We get to take the action step, and he gets to bring the results. We don't have to carry those. And so when you're really looking at, like, what is this weight that you're holding on to? These weights that you are carrying, you're dragging around daily, whether it's rocks in your backpack, if you like that analogy, that picture of just putting on these rocks and just holding them and carrying them with you. Or if you think of the armor, the protection of the clay that's all over this valuable gold inside. When we start to pull that away, it gets lighter. Our purpose gets to shine. We get to see our unique calling that God's put on us. And it's something that, like, though it may carry some responsibility, it also carries an immense amount of joy and this feeling. And I can't wait. Even when I did my interview with Gary Sinise, which it will come out in a couple of weeks, he talks about the benefits that he gets from serving. that pouring out and the tiring and making things happen. He's like, but the joy that I get is worth it. The joy that I get to see as I'm serving others is worth it. And it's so true. You want to fast track your healing. You want to fast track this feeling to leave a legacy. Serve others. Remove these weights that are on you. Take off the clay and show your gold. That's what you were intended to in the first place. That was what was intended to be shown and to be carried in the first place. You weren't meant to carry the weight of the world. You weren't meant to stay protected from like every comment and everything. Like we talk about how like safety and success are actually opposites. And the more weight of protection we carry, the less success we're going to have. And with the success, I want you to think about success as in fulfillment and impact and joy and just life, experiencing life to the fullest, experiencing your kids to the fullest, experiencing your relationships to the fullest, experiencing your experiences, like being able to, whatever your hobbies are, and also whatever they may be. Let's face it, like when we have teenagers, a lot of our hobbies and a lot of our free time is spent helping our kids live their best lives. And we're grateful to do so. But as they get older, we get to start looking at what we want. We get to start looking at what is our next step, what is our next goal, and pursue some of the dreams that we have gladly set down for a season. The season may be 18 years and maybe 24 years if you have, multiple kids, and that season you get to define the length of it. But one thing that I know to be true is when you start feeling that sense of there has to be more, one of the first things you should start doing is, what can you shed? What armor of protection have you added to yourself? And rightly so. Like, don't feel guilty about adding this on. I know that the armor that I put on, even from a young age, being in a military household, in a military family and moving every 2 to 3 years, there's a lot of, there's many summers that I didn't have any friends. So I spent a lot of time on my own. There's many summers that I had to go and make friends, and people would already be in their friend groups. And so it was, they would kind of push you away, or your like the awkward teen years, the tween years. There's a lot of things. As you're trying to figure out who you are, a lot of times you take external sources, external validations, and you put that on you as clay as well. It's like, oh, this is acceptable. And then something happens when you start getting into your midlife. When people told me about this, about as you turn 40 and your give a darn is like kind of turned down. Like your need to please or to fit in goes away, and you can step out. And so you shed these layers of the clay. You shed these layers of the trauma protections, this is what's acceptable and what's not in my friend group. This is how we act, and this is how we act at work. And how, we can really start shedding all of that, setting it down and becoming more and more and more you. And I think about this Buddha statue, and I think about my life and how really the freedom that came from really getting clear, having this, taking the steps to do the. Okay, sorry, the power went out. So I wanted to make sure I switched to my hotspot so I didn't lose this. But the freedom that we gathered, the freedom that we have from shining your light, from discovering your purpose. And for me, I didn't realize that I was an entrepreneur. I did not realize that when I was trying to figure out how I can serve, how I can use what I've been through for good, was to build a business. And I'm so grateful for the steps that I took. And I'm so grateful for the people in my path that showed me the way. And I realized that I'm not alone in this. This comes up often. I talk with so many women who have this feeling of more. And when I get talking about it, when I start to ask them questions and they start to come alive about what they want to do, and they don't see how it's possible until we start doing that inner work of discovering who God created you to be and see that it was within you all along. And so I want to challenge you. I want to ask you to take a moment and look at the clay layers that you've been carrying. Are you willing to take a hammer and start pulling off that armor piece by piece? You want to feel like there's more to life. You want to feel like there's, you want to leave a legacy. You want to experience and impact and influence, and you want to do these amazing things. What if it's as easy, instead of adding more things to your to-do list, what if it's shedding the things that were not meant for you to carry in the first place? What if you started there? Because some of the reasons that I get when like, Tami, I don't have time. Like, okay, well, let's look at what is happening, what you're doing in your life that no longer serves you, or things that are not your responsibility to carry. I don't have the resources. Okay, what does it really take? We look at all of these objections. We look at all of these things, and then we start to peel away expectations that no longer are we need to carry, which typically setting down expectations, unreasonable expectations from ourselves or for others, that alone typically gives us the energy we need to do something for ourselves, to create what's next for you. We go through this process of really looking at, okay, well, what was meant for you? This feeling isn't there if it's not meant to pursue. The feeling is there because it is important to discover. It's there because God has put it there, this place in your heart for your God-sized dream. So I want you to think about, what could you set down so that way you can pick up something, so you can uncover, like, it's not even pick up, like, just, it's already within you. You're that gold Buddha. Your purpose is that gold Buddha. And we have been covering based on what we've been just adding layers and layers of clay based on things we're good at that other people need us to do, other responsibilities that we have chosen to take on for a season, the things that we need to do for our families. Because let's face it, like, this is a sacrifice we're willing to make. I tell my kids all the time, I'm like, I want to do this for you. And now, like, this is something you can do on your own because I need to do this for me. And I do this for me because it's also for you, because I want you to see what's possible when you step out of your comfort zone. So I want you to see. I tell my kids, do you not see how uncomfortable I am right now? I'm trying to show you what's possible. And they laugh and they're like, okay, whatever. But one day I know that they're going to see, and they're going to correlate the work that I did to pull off those layers of clay. I hope that one day they see and they're able to do it for themselves. And as you are considering this more, this feeling that you want to leave a legacy, or what does it all mean, and you're trying to discover this, think about what you could set down. That take a hammer to and pull off some clay layers to shine your true purpose, your calling, your strengths, your gifts, this God dream that's within inside you. You may have heard or experienced a little bit of it, in a different season, but set it down. But now, if it's stirring, like, just awaken it a little bit, dream about it a little bit, and see what becomes possible. And if you're ready to really start shedding these layers and you want to see, like, what it's like, I am starting a group in July. I have a couple of women who we are talking about, like, this is exactly what they want to do. They want to build, they want to figure out what their legacy is. So we're going to do a 5 months. We're going to go and do the inner work. We're going to pull off these layers of clay. We're going to we're going to polish this gold Buddha. We're going to polish their golden purpose. And then we're going to see for them what it looks like to have What does a business look like for them? Is it a ministry? Is it writing a book? Is it a retreat center? Is it starting a quilting shop? There's what dream has God given you? And what would it look like to actually pursue it? To pull off those layers and shine that gold, to shine your light, to shine your strengths and make your impact on the world. If you're interested, DM me. I'm at this point, I'm just gathering information. I'll get the sign-up sheets, all of that. It actually is by interview only because I want to make sure that the right group that's together. It's going to be a very small group, and we're going to work together because to shed those layers of clay and to really build a purpose-centered life and business. You can't build a business without building a life first, without building designing and launching your whole world, without your whole being, I should say. And so if you're interested in that, DM me. Just if you want some information, you want to have the early access, you want to see. And if you're interested, if you have this need, if you're determined and you feel this angst that there's something more, you want to turn the things that you've been into a nonprofit or into an impactful, you want to make an impact with the things you've been through. This group is for you. It is. We're going to walk you through. I'm going to walk you through. It's going to be me. I don't know why I said we, because I do have some help with VAs and everything, but we're going to work through it together. We're going to look at do the inner work to discover your true purpose, not the one you believe it is, not the one not just based on the strengths that others see, or you've been, working in the workplace for so long that these you've honed, but what are your God-given strengths and your God-given gifts and talents? And what has God been highlighting to you through your whole life? So we're going to discover this together, and then we're going to start and we're going to put these pieces together into a business. This is something that I have done for myself, and the freedom that I have for my family, in all areas of my life because of it, I know that you can do it too. It brings me joy every time I think about it. I'm thinking about the impact that I get to make, and I know that that's there for you as well. All right. So if you're interested, DM me on Instagram. That's the easiest one. And I will get you information. Again, it's just going to be a small group. This first time I do it, it's for women who are really wanting to you may not know what business you want to create. That's okay. But if you're willing to shed those layers of clay and pull out that gold, this group is for you. So with that, friend, choose joy until joy chooses you. I hope you have an amazing day. I hope that you see the gold that's within you and that you shine your light, because when you shine, then it gives your friends permission. We shine brighter when we're together. So with that, I will talk to you soon. Bye for now.